Hi, I'm Stranger Staff writer Jasmyne Keimig, and welcome to the Strangers Film Club, a biweekly series where my colleague Charles Mudede and I discuss a film for your viewing pleasure. The weekends have been a little boring lately, so we hope this discussion gives you some fodder for a more fun Friday. The first film we chose for this series is 2013's Olympus Has Fallen, directed by Antoine Fuqua and starring Gerard Butler as a sweaty Secret Serviceman tasked with saving the president who has been kidnapped by North Koreans. It's a nail biter. Charles picked this one, so I'm going to let him take it away. Charles, without too many big spoilers, can you give us a brief rundown of the basic premise of Olympus Has Fallen?
Yeah, it's an action thriller. And basically, it's about a Secret Service man, and he is tasked with guarding the president's wife, who one snowy night, a bad thing happens to her, and he's mocked for life, it seems, right? His girlfriend notices, or his wife, I think, his partner, I'll say, notices that he's no longer the same person. He sort of longs for the old job. He leaves the White House to take up a job at the Treasury, right?
Yeah, as an office worker.
Yeah, as an office worker. He's hit the bottom of the barrel in terms of DC coolness, right? The Treasury.
Yeah.
And then, of course, an opportunity opens when a team of North Korean military experts invade the USA, or attack, particularly the White House. And he goes to help the other secret agents to protect and save the president of the United States of America.
Yeah, and the president is played by Aaron Eckhart, who looks like a movie president. Is what I have to say.
Not like a movie president. I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of Eckhart, but that he did a great job at looking like the kind of politician who is all appearance and no content.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's his chin. Something about his chin. I don't know. Yeah.
That's yeah.
You kill him, you won't get the code.
Yeah.
And of course, Gerald Butler plays the Secret Service person who's trying to deal with the fact that he lost someone on the job.
Right.
That's the basic background of the story.
Yeah, and he gets beat up a lot in this movie.
But,
yes. Yeah, he gets beat to a pulp. But I guess my next question, that's sort of a bigger one, is why on earth did you pick this movie to kick off the series? What about it? What spoke to you?
Well, first of all, the director has had a string of interesting films.
Yeah.
Black, and he's Hollywood to the bone. I mean, he's never made an indie film. He gets his start, of all places, with not of all places, but he gets his start really in the music video world. And the music video that makes his name is Gangsta Paradise with Coolio, right? I mean, that's what. Then he gets Replacement Killers.
Right.
Which was like at that moment when Hong Kong and Hollywood were in discourse, right? And so it was kind of a cool choice to pick him to direct a full-on action film that was sort of fundamentally Hong Kong cinema, right? Action cinema.
And I think that's kind of what makes Fuqua an interesting Black director, because he doesn't really follow the model of making a tiny indie film and then making a bigger indie film and then kind of going on to these like big budget projects. And he kind of starts right out the gate with these like huge enterprises, right? These huge like action-packed films. And so I guess my next question is, do you think Antoine Fuqua has a soft side?
No, not at all. Well, you should read. He did a great piece about in the Pittsburgh Gazette,
Mm-hmm.
because he shot Southpaw, right?
Yeah.
Right. He shot it. He was set in New York, but he shot it in Pittsburgh. And the way he talks about that film, the way he talks about how he directs, this guy was not made for tear jerking. Nothing of the kind. I mean, it's all, he was really into the softest. I mean, he may see something like, family relationships are important to him, but on the whole, it's not his gig.
He's into trauma. Yeah, he's into explosions. He's into violence, pain.
That's right.
Right.
In a way, you can just see he's not subtle at all. I mean, he just completely doesn't. Even the way he directs, right? If you read about the way he directs, he's never written any of his movies, right? He's not a writer.
Right.
Just a director, right? And all he's looking for is like principle action, principle look, principle feeling, right? Nothing, no depth. I mean, if you look at Olympus Has Fallen, Olympus Has Fallen. If you look at it, I mean, the only time that there's any kind of moment of tenderness, it's when people are saying absolutely nothing important. It's just pure banter, right? Okay.
Mike?
Hey, just checking in.
Babe, how's your day been?
Yeah, it's been busy. It's good, How about you?
Yeah. Busy?
Hey, you okay?
Yeah, I've had to stay a little later than I expected.
Yeah, me too.
It's always like the emptiest talk you could imagine, and he loves it. He thinks that that's affectionate, right?
Totally.
They say silly things to each other that don't add up.
Because there's like the President Eckhart has a son, right, who's hidden somewhere in the White House that Gerard Butler's character has an emotional connection with, right? And so that's a means for him to sort of involve himself within the kind of terrorist hunkering down at the White House.
And so there isn't any depth to this, The kid, the most I think Gerard could say to a kid like that is, again, when we get out of this, when we go to a ballpark, I'll buy you a hot dog.
Right.
That's about as much as you're gonna get.
Right.
Apparently that's enough. And I'm always impressed that he thinks that America is just made of, is either blowing each other up or saying, exchanging things that it seems like if relationships are authentic, they have to be trivial.
Right. So I think something else that made this a really interesting pick for this week is that it comes right after the November, our elections. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that, I was watching the film from the perspective of, just before the election and kind of seeing the White House being, attacked by terrorists as, like kind of the same as Trump coming to the White House with all his goodies. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is that this film was shot in 2013, right after, our first Black president got his second presidential term. And so I'm just kind of curious, like, what are the chances that Antoine Fuqua is a Republican?
If you look, to me, the film, right? If you look at the film, you watch it, it is almost like, to me, in feeling and in tone, it seems like it's like what Donald Trump tried to capture in his inauguration speech, right? Right. Donald Trump wanted that intensity, right? The exploding buildings, right? The savagery on the street, right? The mayhem that he's got to come in and amp down. And that is exactly like, oh yeah, there's the Obama administration, of course, pushed hope and things like that, right? they didn't have an apocalyptic vision of power and Washington, D.C., right? Politics. No, not at all. They were looking for like, we can all like get along kind of thing. We can
Right.
see each other's differences. None of that. In a way, Olympus does not hold back. Right, it's a terrorist group that hates America, and
Right.
he wants you to know what that hate looks like. Right,
Yeah.
it's merciless. It's, you know what I mean, people blasted to bits all over the place. It's indifference to the American way. Right. Maybe that's an interesting thing for me. Is like, how did he? Most directors would be kind and say, "Oh, we can't do that because that's too hard on the viewers." But no, he did not. He did not hold back. He showed the full force of hating America, right, on the screen,
Totally.
right? And yeah. So that's this. And to me, that's that sort of hate, that sort of anger is there. That was similar to the kind of anger that weirdly enough, from a patriotic point of view or an imagined patriotic point of view, Trump tried to express or tried to define his presidency along those terms. So it makes it's a Trump era film made in the Obama period.
And something else that I thought was really interesting that you brought up in your essay that accompanies this video is that you kind of make this comparison between North Koreans and residents of Pittsburgh's Hill District, where Fuqua grew up and calls home. So are you really making that comparison, or is there something about perhaps like the relationship between country? Our relationship with the United States government between like Black people and North Koreans, in terms of like being ignored or, kind of being the target of, mass U.S. violence.
Yeah, you do. I mean, there's Fuqua actually, was probably faced with the problem that any Hollywood director is faced with, right? Who's going to be the enemy? Which country is going to try to destroy America, right? And it's, in the old days, in the 80s, it was always somebody tied to the Soviet Union or something, right? It was always easy to like to name your enemy, right? And to justify. So you have the Rambo series, right? And the Rambo series actually starts off a little more interesting, but then it drifted towards the standard sort of, anti-communist message. But if you look at the first Rambo, First Blood, it's about cops killing Vietnam vets.
Yeah. Wow.
That film is actually much more interesting, right? But still, who is the enemy? And of course, I always think that you have to you have a set you can pick from, right? Mm-hmm. James Bond sometimes will pick this enemy, or they'll or something or another. Sometimes it's the Russians, but the Russians are not that interesting right now. Sometimes it's the Russian mafia, right? Be thrown in. And so in this case, they decided on what was then probably a sure bet, right? No problem enemy, right? Which is North Korean. But they happen to be also Asian, and there's a tradition in Hollywood cinema, right, of what they call the yellow pearl, right? It's goes right back to World War. Actually, before World War II, I mean, it was just always this feeling that it's there even in Blade Runner. You can't escape it, right? It's this idea that the Asians are going to be this population that will just swamp out the white race.
And just take over.
Just take over, right? And there's this moment in Fallen, Olympus Has Fallen, there's this moment when it feels like they're getting swamped, right? The Koreans are in this plane. They have this devious look on them, and they have these guns that fire, right? You know what I mean? Like nobody's business, right? And it's unstoppable.
Sir, I have your commander-in-chief. Now stand down.
Who are you?
I am the man in control of your White House. Now stand your men down.
right? And this is that you can't. It's hard for me at least, and to watch that and not think of like this is a standard sort of white American preoccupation, right? I mean, the East is going to wipe us out. Now, the only problem is it's a black director,
Right?
but he didn't write the script. You know what I mean. And so at the end of the day, he's for hire. You know what I mean?
He's a hired gun after all.
Hired gun, and there's a bit of there's some street in him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's such a Hill District. And anyone who doesn't know the Hill District, all you have to do is watch or read August Wilson's plays, right? They're all set, most of them in the except for one in the American Cycle 10 plays. It's a gritty place. It's not. It's no joke, right? And he grew up. He's like 54 years old right now. So he grew up when the Hill District was still the Hill District, right? Right now, it's gone through such a gentrification, and he actually talks about that. So visiting it and being shocked at all the transformation. And so it's almost like a person coming to Seattle after many years, and seeing the CD, right? They'll be in a state of shock, right? As to like all the grocery stores that have moved in, all the developments, and this is what he sees. But he grew up in this gritty, still in the 70s, right? During the deindustrialization of Pittsburgh. So, I mean, to get from there to becoming a Hollywood director, right, is almost, I almost think like you're going to experience something like the Bends, you're moving up really fast. And suddenly you're directing nothing but A-list directors all over, and A-list actors all over Hollywood, right? And so to me, when I'm watching this, I know that he must say to himself when he's looking at this, that, man, I survived the streets. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get it over and done with. I know. Shoot it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain that's his approach. But he's worked with, he hasn't really made. I swear to goodness, he hasn't made anything that I could actually call. And this is why I'm sort of fascinated with him. I think he's a brilliant visual director, but he's never made anything you can call properly. If there is such a thing, but you couldn't say that he's made a black film.
Yeah, because I think something that really popped out to me was during the scene towards the beginning where the North Koreans come in with that giant plane and they shoot down the National Mall, right? They shoot down the Washington Monument, they shoot down the White House, and both of those things I think a lot of Black people know, a lot of Americans know, were made with Black slave labor, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's this weird thing where, you have these terrorists coming in and causing all this chaos and violently murdering people in the street, but then you also have the image of, white tourists getting crushed, by these blocks that were lifted up by Black people, hundreds of years ago, right? And so we definitely don't necessarily see this as a Black film, and I think it would be hard to argue outside of it being directed by a Black director that it is. But do you think that a white person would have understood, or a white director would have understood, the symbolism of, these people coming in, these terrorists coming in and just completely decimating things that are, American and patriotic, but at the same time represent, slavery?
Yeah. There's no question about that. There is a weird eye at work in this film, particularly in the catastrophe scenes, right? Okay. He has a vision that is, I think, specific, and is telling us something, right? I mean, he shows no mercy. I mean, the amount of, I've never seen so many white men shot up to bits.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually, yeah.
I mean, Morgan Freeman, you pointed out that Morgan Freeman did this. I mean, he's in the film. I mean, eventually he becomes president in the film because of the crisis.
He plays the House Speaker.
The House Speaker,
Morgan Freeman plays the House Speaker, and when both the president and the vice president become kidnapped, Morgan Freeman, his character, becomes the acting president.
That's why, weirdly enough, Obama sort of makes an appearance.
Mr. Speaker, As both the President and the Vice President of the United States are unable to discharge the duties of their offices, I'm officially placing you under Secret Service protection. You are the acting President of the United States.
Are they alive?
They are.
Sir, North Korea is denying any involvement in the attack.
We've secured the perimeter of the White House and cleared a 10-block radius.
Sir, they've also assassinated the South Korean Prime Minister.
You know, there was something in when he takes command, right, of the situation, right, and he's up against really a room of white generals. That's what he's, you know, and all these people and the experts and, you know, with say Angela Bassett. By the way, when I mentioned star-studded Starfield, I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
Wall-to-wall stars. Angela Bassett is there, and as the head of the Secret Service, and when he's in there, there's that moment that feels so much like that shot when that photograph of when in the mission room when Bin Laden is killed, right? There was a sort of matching of images because he's now dealing with like he has to like put his foot down, he has to start calling the shots, right? And Morgan Freeman does, and he has to start listening to he has to start shutting out people who have their own agendas in the control room, the command room. And so in that way, yes, I do feel that in that situation, Morgan Freeman, as you said, didn't want to do the role. He did it for money.
Yeah, I think from what I understand, Morgan Freeman did this for the check and has openly stated that he did both Olympus Has Fallen and its sequel, London Has Fallen, for the check. Which, you know, I think if Antoine Fuqua is like making these films for A-listers to basically, you know, Ashley Judd collected a check, Morgan Freeman, Angela Bassett, he's writing money for these rich people. I think maybe that's what we need to question a little bit more. That's the take.
Hey, but first of all, I want to take down Morgan Freeman's comment. When has Morgan Freeman ever made a film that was not about money? I was like looking around for the film. Which indie film is this that Morgan Freeman is in? I mean, he has been about the check. He's just being mean to this black director. Just name me one film that Morgan Freeman was like, I don't need a check. I just want to do this out of my love of the art.
Spark an immediate and full-scale conflict, and that any conventional war in this heavily armed corner of the world could easily escalate into nuclear confrontation.
That is a question that we should definitely answer in future installments.
Yeah.
So I think kind of, wrapping it up, my last question is, in the past 4 years, we've seen a lot more local and state governments, stepping up and shielding their constituents from, the Trump administration. And I found that while watching this film, and seeing the White House, the heart of American politics, get completely decimated by terrorists, I didn't necessarily feel the same emotional impact that I would have if I was viewing this in the Obama era. So my first question is, am I a terrorist? And my second question is, do you think that Biden will help liberals feel mushy about being in the White House again?
I have to say something about the question is, first one is, yes, you're a terrorist. Terrorism has got its nice side. It's not all bad. It's not all about killing people.
Not since the British burned down the White House in the War of 1812 has an enemy force occupied the center of American power.
The White House, the most protected building on earth, has fallen.
Biden basically is going to enter a situation which is close to the end of Olympus Has Fallen, in a sense that he's going to enter a nation, because they've been blasted to bits at the end of the film. I won't tell you how it ends, but just know that the country is traumatized.
Carnage.
Yeah, right.
Carnage at the end of this.
Carnage is the word. That's Trump's word, right? And for us, it was an emotional carnage. often. I mean, under the presidency. So basically, all that somebody, and this is what you would imagine a president has at the end of the film, is what the president Biden has as he enters the White House. It's like, it's not that he's going to make his film mushy. I mean, he's got to let us grieve.
Yeah.
It's going to be about, it's going to be, after all those monuments have been destroyed in the movie, you know, the nation has to grieve about, you know, the loss. And for us, it's a spiritual situation. Whereas in the film, it's material, but it's similar. We need this space, this time of just, you know, getting ourselves together before the next round of the next film in the Fallen series, right?
Our foe did not come only to destroy our things or our people. They came to desecrate a way of life, to foul our beliefs, trample our freedom. And in this, not only did they fail, they granted us the greatest gift, a chance at our rebirth.
We're sort of stuck. We're not going to feel mushy. We're just going to ask the president to let us just go, you know, to treat ourselves.
Totally. You know, I think Antoine Fuqua, if he was smart, he would make a third film called Mar-a-Lago Has Fallen. And I would 100% watch that. But well, thanks a lot for chatting, Charles.
A bag of a can of worms here. Are you kidding me? It happened to a hurricane. It come down and directly at, you know, at Trump and, you know what I mean, and his whole Florida universe. He's got to come and whack them. I mean, he'll do it right.
Thanks a lot for chatting with me, Charles, and thanks to our readers for watching. If you're watching this on a social media, make sure to head over to our blog, where we have an essay up about this week's pick. See you again in 2 weeks, and good luck out there, everyone.
Take care.